Among the strangest beasts that have ever lived were the uintatheres. They had 3 rows of paired knob-like horns on top of their heads and giant fangs hanging down from their upper jaws. Yet despite this wicked appearance, they were herbivores. They were the largest creatures in North America and Asia from about 50 million years ago until about 40 million years ago. Their bodies reached the size of rhinos or elephants, weighing as much as 5 tons. And yet, for such huge bodies, they had ridiculously small cheek teeth with very simple crests, suitable for eating only soft leaves. Then they vanished mysteriously from both regions. And, most perplexing of all, no one has any good idea what group of mammals they were related to. These bizarre creatures were among the first giant fossil mammals ever to be discovered in North America. They first came to the attention of science in the early 1870s when 3 pioneers of American bird paleontology were all collecting them and describing them at the exact same time. The first of these was Dr. Joseph Leidy of the University of Pennsylvania, the founder of vertebrate paleontology in North America. Sometimes called the last man who knew everything, he was an expert not only in fossil bones, but also a pioneer in microscopy, in parasitology, in fungi, and a pioneer in forensic science, as well as many other fields. The second was one of Leidy's students, Edward Drinker Cope. He was a wealthy Quaker who was a child prodigy in anatomy and paleontology. He published scientific papers at an astonishing rate, not only in paleontology, but also in herpetology. The third paleontologist was Cope's arch-rival, Othniel Charles Marsh of Yale University. A late bloomer, he was supported by his wealthy uncle George Peabody to found a new museum at Yale and sent out crews to the American West to collect every summer. He and Cope began as friends, but soon developed into bitter rivals who just tried to destroy each other's careers, and almost did so. This period is often known as the Bone Wars. Cope and Marsh soon got into a battle over the discovery and naming of uintatheres and tried to outdo each other and beat their rival to print with every new species named. Fossils of uintatherium were first discovered in the Bridger Basin near Fort Bridger by Lieutenant W.N. Wan in September 1870 and were later described as a new species of Titanotherium by Marsh in 1871. The specimen only consisted of several skull pieces, including a right parietal horn and fragmentary parts of a skeleton. In 1872, Marsh and Joseph Leidy collected in the Eocene beds near Fort Bridger, while Cope excavated in the Washakie Basin in northeast Colorado. In August 1872, Leidy named Uintatherium robustum based on the back half of a skull and partial jaws, and that became the first valid name applied to these beasts. 18 days after the description of Uintatherium, Cope and Marsh both named new genera of uintatheres. Cope named Loxolophodon in a telegram which was garbled by the telegraph operator and spelled Lephalophodon when it reached Philadelphia. Marsh rushed a short paper to print about a specimen he called Uintatheres. But because Uintatherium was named first by Leidy, Cope's and Marsh's genera are considered to be the same thing as Uintatherium. Cope described 2 genera in his telegram, Loxolophodon and Eubasileus. The latter is still considered a valid genus, different from Uintatherium. Several days later, Marsh erected the genus Dinoceras. Dinoceras and Tinoceras received several additional species by Marsh through the 1870s and 1880s, many based on fragmentary material. In 1884, Marsh published a huge bound monograph with beautiful engraved plates of the Dinosaurata. Uintatheres remained a taxonomic nightmare, with dozens of invalid names in the literature that no one could believe. Finally, in 1961, exactly 90 years after this work began, Walter Wheeler published a volume which cleaned up the mess. But uintatheres didn't start out as elephantine beasts with 6 horns on their heads. The oldest known uintathere is Prodinoceras, from beds around 58 million years old in Mongolia. It already showed the characteristic saber-like tusks, but it was about 10 feet long, had relatively short legs, so it was built long and low to the ground. It had no horns on the top of its head. A very similar beast is Probathyopsis, from beds around the same age in North America. Thus, uintatheres are among the first mammals to become really large. They were the giants in Asia and North America around 58 million years ago. From Probathyopsis, the next stage in evolution was Bathyopsis, whose name means deep face. As its name implies, it has a short, deep snout and a very broad skull. The long tusk with the flange and lower jaw is still present, as well as the first pair of horns appearing on the nose. It is found in beds from about 54 to 50 million years old in Wyoming. Around 50 million years ago, uintatherium itself first appeared. Found mostly in rocks of southwestern Wyoming, northwest Colorado, and northeast Utah, it is the most famous member of the group, with many specimens known, including complete skulls. Around 46 million years ago, two more extreme versions of uintatheres appeared, known as Tethyopsis and Eobasileus. Both had 6 horns on the top of their head like uintatherium, but these horns were much longer and slightly curved. The huge canine tusks were also longer, and both of them vanished from North America around 41 million years ago. While this was happening in North America, uintatheres appeared in Mongolia one last time, but they look very different. First discovered in the Gobi Desert of Mongolia in the 1920s by the American Museum of Natural History expedition to Central Asia, Gobiatherium had enormous, bulbous, bony structure on its nose, but no horns at all, and no large fangs either, yet its tiny teeth were still like those of uintatheres. When Gobiatherium and Eobasileus vanished from Asia and North America around 40 million years ago, uintatheres went extinct. Nobody knows the cause of their extinction, but it does coincide with the end of the dense jungles of the early Middle Eocene, which might have produced the kind of vegetation they required. But this still leaves the greatest mystery of all. What were uintatheres related to? Traditionally, their huge body size suggests they might be related to elephants, and Cope even had them illustrated that way with a trunk to go with their tusks. But most later paleontologists dismissed this, because their similarities are probably convergent evolution of limb structure due to large body size. In 1985, my friends Robert Schoch and Spencer Lucas suggested a startling idea. Uintatheres might be related to rabbits. This would make them elephant-sized, 6-horned, saber-toothed bunnies. But before you laugh, take a look at the evidence. Back around 57 million years ago in Mongolia, the ancestors of rabbits were the anagales like Rhombomylus. They were not as small as modern rabbits, and their teeth look remarkably like those of uintatheres like Prodinoceras, just a lot smaller. In more recent years, paleontologists have conducted phylogenetic analyses of all the anatomy of uintatheres, and they seem to be sorting out as some kind of large hoof mammal distantly related to the odd-toed hoof mammals like rhinos and horses. Even more intriguing, there's a mysterious fossil from beds around 55 million years ago in South America known as Carodnia. It, too, has long been a mystery as to what it was, but its teeth look very much like those of uintatheres, and its low build reminds one of Prodinoceras as well. So instead of uintatheres originating in Mongolia and crossing over to North America, this might suggest that they had a common ancestor to the radiation of the unique hoof mammals of South America first, then migrated to North America, and finally to Mongolia. At the moment, the evidence is too limited to favor one hypothesis over another. But if they were giant bunnies with 6 horns and fangs, it does make you think of them very differently.